Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends, and welcome back to the Pursuing Freedom podcast. If it's your first time here, buckle up, welcome aboard. You're in for a great show. And to all my avid listeners, as always, I love and appreciate you coming back and tuning in. We have Ruben Gonzalez here. And Ruben was introduced to me by a good friend, Damon Lemby. If you haven't heard Damon's show on the episode on the show, I highly recommend going back and finding it because that was another really inspiring one. And you're about to leave here fired up and ready to conquer all of your goals in your life because Ruben is a four-time Olympian. He's a best-selling author of a book called The Shortcut, The Fastest Way to Achieve Your Goals. And who doesn't want that in 2026? He's also a keynote speaker with a world-renowned TED Talk. And what I'm super excited about is his story that he's going to share about the power of following the leader. And like we were talking earlier, we had to cut ourselves off because we were already like chattering away. And I was like, this might be part one of three or something because Ruben's got some awesome stories, and I'm super confident that you're gonna be glad you tuned in today. So thanks as always for being here. And with no further ado, Ruben, thank you so much for joining us today.
John, I'm so glad Damon connected us. He's been connecting me with some great people, and I love connectors.
Yeah, me too. Well, yeah, we were born this way, right? You can't change it.
Amen.
So, Ruben, give us a little bit of the backstory. Like, I know now you've been a full-time keynote speaker for over 20 years and you've been an Olympic athlete. Tell us a little bit about the journey that's led you to the passion you bring to the world today.
I'm an unlikely Olympian. Okay, I can't jump high. I can't run fast. I'm not particularly strong. I'm like your neighbor. I'm serious. A lot of heart, no body. Just like Rudy. Okay, Rudy Rudiger. And so I was born in Argentina. We moved to the States when I was 6 years old. And we were in Queens, New York for a couple of years, then Houston for most of my life, 30 years or so. Couldn't stand the heat, moved to Colorado Springs a few years ago, and love it out here in the mountains. But in Argentina, if I'd have stayed there, I never would have, even heard of the Olympics. All I care about is soccer. Now, I love to read adventure books, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days. I had them all in Spanish. My parents bought them in English. They brought in a tutor. That's how to learn how to speak English. And I was always looking for my adventure. And when I was 10, I'm sitting watching the Olympics on TV for the first time. And I knew right away, that's my adventure. That's what I want to do. And what drew me to the Olympians, it wasn't their athleticism, it was their spirit, it was their heart. Because I realized right away that this is a group of people that have a dream. They're willing to train for years and years, no guarantees of success. I thought you got to be so strong, put yourself through that. They became my heroes. I had them up on a pedestal, and, I just want to be one of those guys. And but I didn't believe it was possible because I was on the bench for kickball. Okay, I mean, I didn't know they had a bench in kickball. I think they invented it for me, but that was the situation. But I was hooked. I was so fascinated by the Olympic idea that I became an Olympic groupie. I read all the books. I knew all the stories, the history. I'm a Olympic encyclopedia, really. And it's even now, 40, 50 years later. And so my dad got tired of me talking the talk, not walking the walk. And he said, Ruben, you like to read books, read some biographies. If you'll study the lives of great people, you'll figure out what works and what doesn't work in life. Get success leaves clues. I started reading them, and I kept seeing perseverance over and over and over, right? They're a bunch of hardheads. And that gave me hope because my mom always called me a hardhead, right? And so at 12 years old, I decided from today on, I'm not quitting anything, okay? If quitting is the end of your dream, perseverance is, at least you got a shot. There's no guarantees. And so by high school, my nickname's Bulldog. Kids started noticing that I was very tenacious. I was a walk-on my college soccer team, played 5 minutes a game. And when I was 21, and this whole time I'm reading biographies, so I don't realize it. It's the books you read and the people you hang around with. He was one of those dads. And I did that. And I didn't realize that I was growing from the inside out. It just hadn't popped out yet. Now I'm 21 years old, sitting at the bench of Houston Baptist University soccer team. Olympics roll around again. 1984, Sarajevo, Winter Olympic Games. And I'm watching on TV. I see Scott Hamilton, the figure skater, win the gold medal. And he's about 5 feet tall, weighs 110 pounds soaking wet. Yeah, I didn't know that somebody that little could be an Olympian. I thought he had to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And so he shattered my paradigm and he wins. And I thought, oh my gosh, if that little guy can win, I can at least play. I'll be in the next ones. It's a done deal. I just got to find a sport. All right.
Oh my God.
So at 21, it came 11 years later, right? And I knew that I would be in the Olympics in 4 years. It was scary. I was so Sure. I always had the desire, okay, but I didn't have the belief. Belief will get you going. Desire keeps you going. If you want something badly enough, ain't nothing going to make you quit. I had the desire, I just didn't believe it was possible. Now I got the belief, I'm ready to hit it. I went to the library, got a big book about the Olympics. I looked at the summer sports first. It took me 5 minutes to realize, forget this. You got to be Superman to do any of this stuff. No way. I started looking at the winter sports and I started thinking, wait, I'm about to put together a plan for the next 4 years. I need to base the plan on my strengths, right? And so my strength isn't athleticism. My strength's perseverance. I'm bulldog. So I got to find a sport that's so tough. A sport's got so many broken bones in it. There'll be lots of quitters, right? That's where I'll stand out. I'll ride the attrition rate all the way to the top. That's my whole plan. Outlast everybody. Ski jump, bobsled, or luge. I lived in Houston. I never skied. Ski jump, suicide. That one's out. Bobsled. Where are you going to find 3 other nuts in Houston? One to the bobsled. I mean, you got to go to Jamaica for that, right? So that left the luge. You can do that one by yourself. I had a little picture of a guy on a luge. I'd never seen it on TV. If I'd have seen it, no way. I'm not that crazy. I had a little picture. I thought, that's the one for me. I can do that by myself. I didn't even know where the track was. So what do? Well, you got to find somebody that knows. Sports Illustrated. It's their job to know. I wrote them a letter, right? Where do you go learn how to luge? Signed, Ruben. Bottom line. They actually wrote back. Lake Placid, New York. That's where the track is. And they sent me a picture of a guy on a luge. And I put it on a picture, on a frame, stuck it right in front of my bed in my bedroom, right? I still have that picture in my office. Actually, right now it's in a storage facility, but it's going to go back to my new office. But anyways, I called Lake Placid. At first, they wouldn't take me. I was 21. You're way too old. We start them off when they're 8 years old. And I wouldn't take no for an answer. And finally, you let me come to a couple of camps. And 4 years and a few broken bones later, I'm in the Olympics in Calgary in '88. It takes 10 years to learn the luge, okay? They start them off when they're 5, 6, 8-year-old kids. And until they turn 19, they're going from a junior start. That's not quite as fast. And so it's a long process because you got to keep them interested. They can't be fearful, and kids aren't fearful anyways. And so they're growing and they're learning, and it's really not that bad, okay? It's football's a lot worse. But then when you turn 19, then you go to men's start or ladies start. Well, with me, I couldn't do that. They crammed it into 2 years. They said, you're going to get hurt a lot, but we need to do that because the next 2 years, you need to be competing in the World Cup circuit against the best in the world. And the top 50 get to go. 51 watch it on TV. So will you go for Argentina? Because that's what did it. He wouldn't take me. I happened to tell him I was born in Argentina. And he got all excited. And he goes, man, if you go for Argentina, we'll help you. I said, why? You weren't going to help me before. He goes, well, we're this close. We're this close to getting kicked out of the Olympics as a sport because we're not global enough. Okay, it's just the U.S. and Europe and Canada. We're recruiting. You'd be a whole new continent, but you still have to qualify, right? But you're helping the sport. Now that was in 1984, and they're still helping me 40 years later. They teach me enough so I don't beat the Americans, but that I can qualify, and I'm cool with that.
Oh my gosh! So you've been to the Olympics 4 times?
4 times. I got so Calgary '88 was the first one. Then Albertville, France, 1992. So I was 8 years in a row, and I was really burnt out after 8 years. 7 Christmases in a row that I missed, and I was just burned out. And so I quit. I was done. 5 years, 6 years go by. Then my coach calls me out of the blue. Ruben, you must come back. It's Austrian coach. Luge needs Argentina. Yeah, he always calls me when they need me, right? And so I said, forget it, coach. And anyways, he talked me into it. And I talked my brother into training because it was 5 years till. And he started training. He's an out-of-shape 30-year-old architect. He started training, and he got in shape. And long story short, we became the first 2 brothers to compete internationally in the sport of luge in the Winter Olympics. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah, it is insane. And he got it out of his system after 1. And then at that time, in 2002, Salt Lake, that's when I started speaking professionally and writing books and stuff. And so all of a sudden I have a new dream and a new focus that kept me busy for about 6 years. I thought I was done. And in fact, when I went into Salt Lake, into the Olympic Village, it was 10 years since my last Olympics. And I'm 39. And I felt just like a dad visiting his kids in college because everybody else was like college age. And all the old guys, they were all asking me the same thing. So what are you coaching? And I said, no, I'm an athlete. They actually looked me up and down and go, come on, what are you coaching? I mean, I'm like the Rodney Dangerfield of the Olympics, right? that was Salt Lake City. Then for 6 years, I built my business, and then I started getting bored, right? I needed a challenge. And I started training again because I found out no one's ever done 4 Winter Olympics in 4 different decades, right? I thought, hey, Guinness Book of World Records, who knows? That might get me some gigs. That might be good for marketing, right? So I started training again, and it was going to be the top 40 this time, not the top 50. They keep adding sports. It's turning into the X Games, but they cap it at 3,000 athletes for winter, and so there's less slots. I made it by the skin on my teeth. I was 47 by then. And now I'm 63. I'm sliding better than ever. Okay, more consistently because I actually listen to coach. We'll talk about that when we get to the shortcut and all that stuff. But I'm sliding more consistently. I mean, in the old days, a clean run means you didn't even brush against any of the walls, right? You're not necessarily fast, but it's a big deal, especially for a beginner, because it shows that at least you're in control, right? And the most I'd ever gotten was 3 clean runs in a row. Now I got 17 in a row. And so why? Because, well, coach says you've taken all these long breaks and your body's not broken down. You're like a really old car. It's been in the garage a lot. But you're mentally tougher because you're still growing. So all this stuff applies to business, applies to life, applies to everything.
Yeah. So tell us about the journey then. You get back in 2002 and you find yourself becoming a keynote speaker and this business that you developed. And you told me earlier that you're a total introvert. And I love this because as a coach myself, I work with introverts who are in sales. And it's like, I'd love to unpack that a little bit.
Sure. And by the way, there's a great book. I forget the name, but about being an introvert in sales is actually an advantage, okay? Because you actually listen. And by listening, you find out what their needs are and you develop trust because it's not yet just you. And so if you're an introvert and you're listening to this, thank God that you're an introvert, that you're in sales because you can actually pass those fast talkers. So
I love it.
I'm an introvert. I know you're thinking, no, you're a liar, but it's true. I'm an introvert. I don't even go to networking meetings because I'm the guy hiding behind the plant, okay? Because it's really hard for me to introduce myself to people. You get me talking about the Olympics, or you get me talking about personal development, and Clark Kent, who I really am, turns into Superman for a little bit, but then I go back to Clark Kent. So I like it that way. I never thought about being a speaker. I never took a speech class in my life. It would have been a waste to take a speech class. What am I going to do with this? And I sold copiers in Houston. I've knocked on every door of every floor of every building downtown Houston several times. We sold copiers and paper shredders. And you may be too young to understand this, but the only building we could never get in was the Enron building. Okay, they had security like TSA at the airport, and we always wondered what the heck is going on in there. And we'd go in, and we thought we'd say to each other, "Man, if I can just sell a pen to those guys at Enron, that proves I'm the best." And we keep trying; they keep walking us out. And when I found out what they did, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I could have sold them $1 million worth of paper shredders." Anyways, so I was doing that. And this kid asked me to be his show and tell project in school right before the Salt Lake City Olympics, 2002, about almost 25 years ago. And I thought, show and tell, 20, 30 kids in the classroom. Everybody has to show something off. That leaves about 5 minutes for me. I can handle that. I said, sure, I'll go. And I thought, but I'm going to kill, okay? No prisoners. I'm finally going to win my gold medal. I'm very competitive. I want to win. And so I took the sled, the helmet, the Olympic torch, because I was a torch bearer. No prisoners. It's going to be awesome. The principal takes me to this big room. There's 200 kids sitting on the floor. And he says, you got 45 minutes. Have at them. It turned into an assembly. They didn't tell me. And I almost had a heart attack. I almost ran out the door. That door was so inviting. The guy that wrote The Courage to Succeed almost ran out the door from a bunch of little fifth graders. I'm serious, okay? And I said a prayer. I mean, I call it the desperation prayer. God, what do I do now? And what I felt I needed to do was just tell them your story, give them some pointers on how they make their dream come true. And I did. I didn't die or anything, no heart attack. I was so excited about that. I mean, seriously. And I'm packing it up to leave. The teachers, they surrounded me and go, what do we got to do to get you to stick around another hour? We'll pull the fourth graders out of class. They got to hear this. I said, hey, bring them on. That was actually kind of fun. Second time around was a little bit better. And on the way to the car, the principal's going nuts. It's like, man, you got a gift. You're better than the people we pay. You need to do this for a living. I said, what? You get paid for show and tell? And he says, no, it's a speaking profession, man. I was totally clueless, but he was so on fire. It was like a 2x4 hitting me, right? And I always want to have my own business. I should never had followed up on that desire. And uh and I thought about it for about 3 days. I thought, you know what? I was having a lot of fun there. Who knows? Maybe I can inspire some of these kids to do something with their lives. And sure, it's a lot of more fun than trying to sell a copier, you know. And if I can sell a copier, I can sell a Ruben too. So I quit my job 3 days later, which I don't recommend. And I started hitting the phones. There's 700 schools in Houston. I just started calling them all. You know, principal, the counselor, the president of the PTA, follow up with faxes. I mean, just massive action. And I'm getting booked left and right. I didn't know what to charge. I'm charging $300, $500, right? And so February, top of the world at the Olympics, right? Winter Olympics always in February. March, April, May, I'm living the dream. I got my own business, right? I'm actually making money, and this is awesome, right? Well, I forgot that the summer's going to be dead, right? Because school's out. June, July, August, zero. I'm $50,000 in credit card debt because that's what it costs to, to get to the Olympics. Next 3 months, $0 by August. 3 months behind our house payment. Food stamps, totally humbled. Okay, top of the world in February and humbled big time by August. And that's what it took for this hardhead, okay, to realize, oh my gosh, I tell everybody to find a coach or a mentor who's already done something they want to do, right? Somebody to show them the way. I'm not even taking my own advice. I can tell stories, but I don't know the business side of the speaking business. And so somebody told me about National Speakers Association. I went to a meeting in Houston, had a chapter, and out of 50 people there who were lifelong, card holders, there was three that were making it happen, right? And I talked to one of them. I asked him, "Hey, will you be my mentor? Right? Will you help me?" And he made me jump through a ton of hoops to do it because he says, I'm not taking any mentees. None of these people do anything. I only had one guy that ever did the first thing. He says, "Look, I'll do whatever you say. Okay. I'll make you look good. I promise." And so he said, "We're going to meet once a month. You got me for 1 hour. If you're smart, you're going to bring a pad with some questions. We'll start there. At the end, I'm going to give you, you buy me lunch. And at the end, I'm going to give you an assignment. If we ever meet and you haven't done last month's assignment, it's over because I want action people." I said, "Great. Sounds great to me." I said, "I'm on food stamps, okay? I can't buy you lunch. We're going to go to Starbucks. You can have anything on the menu as long as it's coffee of the day, cream and sugar. That's it." And we did that. And the first time we met, he says, "I don't care if you're a 10-time Olympian. Unless you write a book, no one's going to take you seriously because the author's considered the authority of the subject. He wrote the book on it, right?" He's going on and on about the book. It's just a business card nobody throws away. And I thought, that's all. I can't write a book. I made C's in English. My parents, they celebrated or brought a C in anything. And he says, "You got a great story. You write it down and write it down like you're writing a letter to your best friend. Don't try to get fancy, okay? And we'll give it to some A students. They clean it up for you." I thought, wow, I didn't think about that. He goes, "Yeah, it's just grammar, man. That's editing. So shut up and sit down. Start writing that book." And I started writing it. And that book, The Courage to Succeed. I mean, I'm on number 6 now, but Courage to Succeed, oh gosh, it's been translated to 10 different languages, sold tons everywhere. And so here's the key. Here's the thing, okay? We have all of these logical reasons. It's like a perfect case that we can put together against ourselves because why we can't do whatever it is. But when you go to somebody who's actually been through that minefield and done it, right? Not a theorist, somebody who's actually done it, they're going to say, "No, all you got to do is do this, this, and this. What's your next problem?" And so number one, they show you how to get through. And number two, they say, "You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it." No, and I'm thinking, wow, if he can do it, he believes in me, I'll ride on his belief till mine kicks in. That's why you have to find that mentor, that coach, that person that's been through the minefield. And that's a little bit what the shortcut's about.
I love that so much. So then how has it evolved? I mean, all the things that you're saying, success leaves clues, the books you read and the people you hang around, like what your dad instilled in you. I mean, all of this is really powerful. And I love how you said too that, it was scary that you were so sure because desire gets you going, but belief keeps you going. And just all the things about like, when you hang around people that remind you of your future, you can start to borrow that belief until yours expands. And so, what has that led to in your journey of being able to impact the lives of so many through your speaking, your books. I mean, talk to us more about like the journey has it's continued to evolve.
That kid who asked me to be his show and tell project. I mean, I always liked the kids more than the adults, less drama. So I was always playing with the kids in my neighborhood. So I knew all the kids. I didn't know their parents' names, but I knew all the kids. And so that's why he asked me, "Hey, Ruben, when you get back?" I was one of the kids. And so he changed my life. My whole life's a God thing. Okay. Non-athlete, 4-time Olympian, can't spell, I'm a real best-selling author. Okay. I mean, I've sold over 350,000, probably closer to 400,000 books now in a bunch of languages. Introvert and been keynote speaker for the last 20 plus years. I mean, if I don't give you hope, you're in big trouble. so, uh, so at first, the first year and a half, I mostly spoke at schools. And then because of my sales background, I started doing lots of sales kickoffs, right? But and about, I'd say 40% of my gigs are sales kickoffs now. And they're big. I mean, I've spoken for over 100 Fortune 500 companies in the last 20 plus years. And so, but I don't talk about sales technique or closes. I talk about attitude and stick to it, and mental toughness, all the things, character, all the things that'll help you do better no matter what system you're using. And I explain that to the VP of sales before, when he's ready to, or he or she ready to book me. I said, hang on, we need to get this. You need to know this. And they're actually relieved because many of the other sales speakers, they want to sell them on their sales system and everybody has to change and it's hard, right? And what I do is I take their excuses away. I kind of do for them, for any group, what Scott Hamilton did for me, right? People walk out of my talk thinking, if that guy can make it to the Olympics even one time, I can do anything, right? If that guy can, and it's true. You really can.
It's so true. It's interesting. Like there's two parts to this. One is that I was in communication with an owner of a large company around the possibility of doing some collaborating and bringing some coaching. And one of the things that he said is they don't need any of that mindset stuff. They just need to be told what to do and then make them feel like shit if they don't do it. And I was like, I don't think we're in alignment. Because what I always tell people is there's no shortage of what to do. You have the playbook, you've been to the sales trainings, you've been given the system, the formula, the framework, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're not executing, then there's a disconnect between what you believe and what, as a result, what you're willing to do. And so,
Yeah.
like, when you talked about how you were scared that you were so sure, how do you help people move from a state of like perpetual uncertainty and self-doubt into a state of believing before they see it? Like, how do you get someone to be like, you know what? I hear you. Like, if he could do it, so could I. But like, how do we get people to really reprogram their minds to say, like, if not now, when?
Golly, you do a seminar on that question. But remember, it took me 11 years and I still read. I just love personal development and I love biographies and I just love it, right? And you know what the beauty of a biography is? No one was born great. Everybody was born ordinary. And it's always dream, struggle, victory, right? You got to get through that struggle because that's where you grow. That's where you change. Dream, struggle, victory, always. And it's perseverance gets you through and following, the coaches and mentors and et cetera. But the beauty of it is you start seeing that you're not the only one who's struggling. Everybody struggles. You have to be willing to fight for your dream. It's not going to fall in your lap. Okay. This is 20. Look, all these fancy things that I told you, right? That, oh, wow, bestseller, blah, 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 spoke all over the place. I still have to be on the phone, working all day to try to find gigs. Okay. I haven't, it's been over 20 years and I haven't had my 20-year success yet. No, it's good. It's good, guys. But I work it. I'm not in the speaking business. Okay. If you're an entrepreneur, listen real good. I'm not in the speaking business. I'm in the marketing, Ruben's speaking services business. Big, big, big difference. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a marketer. I'm constantly trying to sell myself, right? Not convince you. Basically, I'm trying to sell you on watching some of my videos. Because when you watch my videos, most speakers, they have 5 minutes on there, right? They're a little reel. I got about hours. Okay. I got at least 20 or 25. And I tell people, look, it's all rated G. Pop some popcorn, make it an Olympic night, get the whole family together and look out. We're going to have a blast, right? And if I can just get them on watching my videos, they're going to see, wow, this guy, no PowerPoint. He speaks from the heart. I mean, it's kind of like this from stage. And I still haven't fallen off. I'll come close. But I get excited. I work hard. They introduce you as a 4-time Olympian, or they introduce you as a, awesome podcaster, top 1%, wrote the book, all this, people put you on a pedestal. You're no good to them up there. And I'm not good to them. Right. I work hard throughout the whole talk using self-deprecating humor because they need to understand that I'm just like their neighbor. I'm like Opie Taylor got to go to the Olympics. Okay. And so then once they see that, then I can bring them back to the top.
And it's also something I said just this morning with a conversation with somebody else is like, your energy is the currency. And so to your point, when they get to watch your videos, when they get to see and feel your energy, the vibe is the magnet. Like they're drawn to the energy, not to the job title, not to the achievement, not to the external success. They're drawn to the story. They're drawn to the energy, the heart, the soul, the personality. So everyone listening to this has that within them. And sometimes I feel like we have this person who we are, this heart and soul, this light within us that shows up in the most authentic moments in our lives with our loved ones. And then we get given the playbook to solve the problem, and we put on the work hat, and all of a sudden it like dims the light. And we start to lose ourselves in the chase of this thing that's outside of ourselves, where like if we do more to get more, we'll finally give ourselves permission to feel good. But when we feel excited, we attract, we magnetize.
Absolutely. But most people are afraid to do that. They want to wear their mask. So yeah, you probably figured out I'm ADD. And you know what? Thank God. Thank you, Lord, that I'm ADD. I think it's a secret weapon, especially for an entrepreneur. And it's good if you're on stage too, because we ADD people, they say that we can't focus. No, we can't focus unless it's important to us. Okay. And so, but if it's important to us, we have an extra gear of super focus that nobody else has. And then we can put on the blinders and work on animal, because that's, that's how the Olympics were for me. And then that's how building my business was. And that's how writing the books were. If I'm passionate about it, I'm going to do it. But, and another thing is we think non-linearly. I know there's a few ADD people out there because they always come and thank me afterwards. And it says, oh my gosh, I didn't think of it that way. Well, you need to, okay? You need to thank God. You lucked out. So we think non-linearly. You guys think linearly, but we have, it's like having every window that you've opened on your laptop in the last 3 months, they're all there. You can't ever shut them off. And so they're all competing for attention. And so we're getting bombarded with it. And so we start connecting the dots where you guys can't, because you got just one window you're working on. All right. Let's say you're my VP of sales, and Erin, all I need to do to prepare for you guys is we're not going to do PowerPoint. Okay. I don't do PowerPoint. But here's what we do. What's the goal? What do you want your people to think and do afterwards? Okay. What's your goal? And they'll tell me that. That's kind of important, but that's not even, but the real important one comes now. What's the challenge? What's holding them back? Okay. Because I had to overcome a bunch of challenges to reach my goals and dreams, and everybody's got challenges. So tell me, oh, we just went through a merger and we're trying to learn how to play nice with people we used to hate. We used to hate each other's guts. Oh, really? So kind of teamwork stuff? He goes, yeah. Oh, okay. When I got started at Illusion, it was East Germany and West Germany were the top two teams, and they hated each other's guts. But when the wall came down, it was like a merger, right? And they had a decision to make. Success is a decision, okay? And so sooner or later, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you become willing to do the things you weren't willing to do before. And so they had to decide, we're going to continue keeping secrets and being jerks, and we're going to implode, or we're going to share and we're going to become untouchable. And obviously they shared. They've won 80% of the medals in the last 50 years, Germany, okay? Oh, yeah, you got to tell them about those Germans. Cool. Anything else? Oh, yeah, change. We're going through it's always changing. But, we're going through so much change, and I was, oh, okay. Well, you know what? Luge is kind of like car racing. When you're watching a car race, starts raining, what does everybody do? They got to put on their rain tires, right? They go to the pits. Because whenever there's change, whoever adapts first wins. Okay, it's an opportunity if you take advantage of it. I don't talk about embracing change. I talk about taking advantage of change. Right? That's more fun. And so, lose, it starts snowing or the temperature drops or whatever, then you got to do, you might have to change your steels or something, your runners. There's things you can do. And so whoever adjusts first. And so, oh yeah, you got to tell them about that. Cool. Anything else? I'll do up to 3 topics. So first half hour, I tell them my story, and that gets them believing, realizing, man, I can do more. I was scared of that, but big deal. And so they're ready to face their fears, right? Fear of failure, fear of the unknown. And when you face your fear, what happens? 9 times out of 10, you realize that was nothing. It was just in my head. Yeah, guess what? Yep. It's not a fear anymore. So you just grew, baby. All right. And so they're ready to face their fears. And so they're going to grow to at least another level. And because they believe, right? They got that. And in the second half hour, I'll throw in some stories that fit their challenges. And I got 10 hours of stories, probably more. And then we do some Q&A if they like. I love Q&A because it's up close and personal. But then I tell them, look, if there's an opportunity for a meet and greet after that, right, like a dinner or a cocktail or whatever, I like to hang out. Unless I got to fly off to speak somewhere else, I want to hang out because that's when the shy ones will come. Though I would never raise my hand in a Q&A. Hell no, right? But that's when the shy ones will come and they might tell me something that they're struggling with, and I might be able to say something that tweaks their attitude, makes a big difference down the road. So that's kind of what I do. And I don't know what I'm going to say. Erin, if you're sitting in the front row, I'm not kidding, okay? This is every single time. If you're sitting in the front row and I notice that you're paying attention, you're taking notes, at some point, I'm going to go on a tangent, okay, in my talk, because that's just what I do. And then what the problem is, I'm going to go on a tangent off the tangent, and then I get lost. So I'll tell you, Erin, what's your name? Erin? Okay, cool. Listen, I can tell you're paying attention. You're my new deputy. You're my backup. Okay. I'm going to go on a tangent, off my tangent. I'm going to get lost. So whenever I get lost, just reel me back in. Okay, sure. And everybody thinks it's shtick, right? It's a joke. Oh, but I'm counting on you, Erin. You better not start playing games on your phone or I'm toast. But at the end of the talk, I always get the same thing. Oh, you're so real. You're so genuine. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's easier that way. Maybe I'm just lazy. But it's fun, but I didn't know all that. I didn't know when that kid asked me. And so when you're listening to this, you have all of these fears. And you know what fear is? When you start thinking about the worst thing that could happen, well, when you start dwelling on it, okay, there's a time to think about that. But when you start dwelling on it, you're visualizing the worst case, okay? You're visualizing. Whatever you focus on gets bigger in your life. You got to focus on, no, how am I going to make it happen? And what if I make it? What's it going to be like? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to smell like when I finally make my dream come true? You get excited, right? And then that excitement helps you face those fears. And if you still can't do it, you call that mentor because they'll help you. They'll grab your arm. They'll help you. You do it together.
100%. I had a guy on the show one time talk about how he's always adding to his barrel of monkeys. And he's like the little plastic monkeys with one arm is reaching up and one arm is reaching down. So like he's always trying to reach up to a mentor to say like, help me get there faster. But he's always reaching down to make sure he's helping somebody else with what he's learned. Isn't that great?
I say the same thing, but I never thought of the barrel of monkeys. Oh, buy me one of those. That's a great prop.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like what you said about the authenticity piece too, it's interesting because there's so much noise in the marketing world about what we should or have to do. And I think a lot of us get bogged down with the over analyzing of like the should and the have to. And in reality, your brand is your authenticity. It's like, it is actually the unfiltered light within you that shows up with your loved ones. And if you could figure out how to be more of who you already are, you'd already be unstoppable because your energy is the currency. Like you are the magnet. So just becoming more unleashed and unapologetic in spite of the fear. You don't have to wait for fear to go away. You just have to do it anyway.
Look, other people are not going to understand it anyways. So don't even worry. And this is easier. The older you get, the more you get it. Especially the people that are listening to this podcast are a different breed. Okay. They're cream of the crop. I'm not just saying that because average people don't listen to this type of podcast. They're watching, reruns of I Love Lucy or whatever. And so average people, and let's say it's 80%, but it's probably closer to 95%. Average people, you will never understand a high achiever. They won't. A dreamer will never be understood by a non-dreamer. They think we're nuts. Okay. And so no amount of explaining will help. So just don't disassociate with those naysayers. Okay. Because they have the power to create doubt in your heart and your mind, and they have the power to take you down. They do. So disassociate from them and associate with those winners. Hang around with the people who already know what you want to do. The easiest way to remember that is you want to lose 10 pounds. You know what the best diet in the world is? And I've tried them all. I've done the late night one where you take this pill and you're gonna get skinny and rich at the same time, right? I bought that one. And I lost money and gained weight. Didn't work, but this one works. Okay, hang around skinny people. Yes, hang around skinny people. Yeah, because you pick up their habits. You'll pick up their habits. You'll be riding bikes and walking and eating salads and who knows what. The weight will just melt off. You won't even notice it. Why? Because your habits changed. Hang around with people who are already doing what you want to do. That's huge, huge.
Yes, I love that. I feel like we could go on for hours, but I also think that is a perfect drop the mic moment. Hang around people that are doing what you want to do. It is so true. And the power of proximity and community is everything. So there is a natural ripple effect that happens when you get in the room with people that whose energy you can borrow their energy, your energy rises, and then you share your energy with somebody else and their energy rises, and now you're creating a wildfire. It's just like it's so much fun. It's so much easier. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all this. And like I said, maybe there's a 2.0 version coming soon. But thank you, Ruben. And if folks want to find you, follow you, where are the best ways to do so?
The fastest, easiest way, olympicmotivation.com. Olympicmotivation.com.
So if anybody's looking for speakers for their next event or guests for their podcast, reach out to Ruben because he brings the energy, he brings the vibe, and it's going to brighten all of our days. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Thanks for having me, Erin. Can't wait to meet you in 3D.
Exactly. And to all my friends out there, thanks as always for tuning into the Pursuing Freedom podcast. If you feel like somebody needs a spark in their day, be sure to share this episode. And if you haven't yet left that 5-star review, please do so because it helps us continue to attract amazing guests like Ruben and help this content get found. As always, I love you. I appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Mwah.